Hey Reddit. Throwaway account because my husband lurks here. Ironic, right? I honestly don't even know how to start this because the whole thing feels like a fever dream. You know when you think you've hit your limit of, he can't possibly top this level of stupidity, and then he proves you wrong? Yeah, that's my life right now. My husband, Ryan, 35M, and I, 32F, have been married for 3 years. We're not rich, but we get by. I work in marketing, he's between jobs, which is his polite way of saying he hasn't worked consistently in a year and a half, but still somehow needs the newest gaming setup every 6 months. At first, it didn't bother me much. He used to be ambitious, or at least he talked a lot about his business ideas. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. He could be charming when he wanted to be, but over time, the charm turned into excuses. Then the excuses turned into little lies. Like, small things at first, saying he'd applied for jobs when he hadn't, or pretending his friend owed him money that just hadn't cleared yet. I'd roll my eyes, scold him a bit and move on. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then things got weird about 2 months ago. He started acting off. Super affectionate, out of nowhere. Doing chores. Making breakfast, which was just burnt toast and instant coffee, but still. He even started talking about kids. Now, we've had the baby talk before, and we'd both agreed to wait until we were financially stable. So when he started dropping "when you're pregnant someday" comments, I just assumed he was being wistful or trying to show he was getting his act together. God, how naive I was. Because little did I know, he wasn't just talking about a baby, he was selling the idea of one. And apparently, his customers were his own parents. I didn't find out right away, of course. I just noticed that suddenly he had money. Like, real money. Paid off credit card, new clothes, even took me out to dinner at an expensive place and said it was just because. And me? Stupidly, I thought maybe he'd gotten a freelance job or landed some miracle gig he hadn't told me about yet. Spoiler. That's not what happened. What really happened was worse. So, I'm not the type of wife who snoops. Seriously, I don't check his phone, I don't dig through his stuff. I've always believed if you have to go looking for proof, the relationship is already over. But this wasn't about trust at first. It was about math. I handle most of our bills, and I noticed our joint account looked strange. Money was going in, but I hadn't deposited anything. $30,000 to be exact, in one big fat transfer. I remember staring at the statement thinking it had to be a mistake. Maybe a refund? A bank error? I actually laughed a little and said, "Hey, the bank gave us a miracle." Ryan didn't laugh. He froze. Then he said, "Oh, that? Yeah, that's just for my parents." Now, I didn't even question it right away. His parents are a little old-fashioned, but generous when they want to help. They've helped him out before, though not with that kind of money. So I asked, "Why would your parents send you 30 grand?" And that's when he did the thing. You know, that look guys give when they're making up a lie on the spot and trying to make it sound like an obvious truth? The scrunched forehead, the fake casual shrug, the, "Babe, you know this already" tone? He goes, "Oh, yeah, they, just wanted to help out with, stuff." Stuff. Yeah, like bills and, future plans. Future plans? And then, I swear to God, he says, "For the baby." I actually laughed, like burst out laughing. Because what baby? I'm not pregnant. We hadn't even talked about trying. But he just smiled like he'd said something normal and went, "Yeah, I told them we were expecting. I didn't want to tell you yet because I wanted it to be, like, a surprise announcement later. A surprise pregnancy announcement. About me. To his parents. That I wasn't even part of." I stared at him, trying to figure out if this was a joke or some weird test. But nope. He doubled down. He even pulled out this whole story about how his mom cried tears of joy, and his dad said he wanted to help us get a head start. That's when my stomach dropped. Because $30,000 wasn't help. That was their retirement money. And this man, my husband, lied to his parents about me being pregnant, so he could get a payday. At that moment, I didn't even know what to say. I just sat there, hands shaking, while he kept rambling about it's not a big deal, and we'll pay them back once my business takes off. But here's the kicker. I had no idea what business he was even talking about. Because there wasn't one. So after Ryan dropped the "I told my parents you're pregnant" bomb, I sat there in total silence. I think my soul briefly left my body. He must have taken my silence as encouragement because he started explaining like he was pitching on Shark Tank. Apparently, he told his parents that he wanted to start a family-friendly business to prepare for our new baby. Something about online sales. Baby merch, he said. Custom onesies, baby blankets, stuff like that. I asked, "So that's what you use the money for? To start a business?" And he said, "Well, technically, yeah." Technically. My new least favorite word. So I pressed, "What's the name of this business? Do you have a website? Inventory? Anything?" He got this deer in headlights look and said, "Well, it's not, like, launched yet. I'm in the, development phase." Translation. He spent the money. My heart started pounding because the only development I'd seen lately was his brand new gaming chair, upgraded monitor, and his recent guy trip to Vegas that he said was paid for with points. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Ryan, please tell me you didn't use your parents' money for your stupid gaming setup and a trip." He got defensive immediately. "God, you make it sound so bad. It's my parents' money. Not like I stole it from you." "Oh, so lying about a baby that doesn't exist is fine as long as it's your parents'?" He rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic again. It's not like I hurt anyone. I'll make it back. They'll never even know." I swear, I wanted to throw something. He said it so casually, like he'd borrowed a few bucks, not conned his own parents out of their retirement savings using a fake pregnancy. I told him he needed to come clean immediately. Call them. Tell the truth. He said, "You don't get how family dynamics work, babe. They'd freak out if I told them now. It's better if we wait until, I can show some results." Results. He actually thought he could turn this lie into something profitable. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. So I did neither. I walked out of the room, locked myself in the bathroom, and sat on the floor until I stopped shaking. And while I was in there, I realized if he could lie about something this huge, what else was he lying about? It was 3 days later, when everything really exploded. I'd been keeping my distance, trying to process, trying not to lose my mind. Ryan acted like nothing had happened. He still played his games, still ordered takeout, still called me babe like we weren't sitting on a ticking time bomb made of lies. I didn't tell his parents right away because I wanted to see if he would. He didn't. Of course he didn't. Then one night around 8:30 I got a call from his mom. I almost didn't answer. I wasn't ready for that conversation. But something in me said, pick up. The second I said hello, she was sobbing. "Sweetheart," she said, voice trembling. "I just need to ask, are you and Ryan okay? Are you at the hospital?" My stomach dropped. What? No, why would we be at the hospital? Then she said it. Because Ryan told us you lost the baby. I swear, I nearly dropped the phone. I ran into the living room, phone still to my ear, and just stared at him. He was sitting there, eating chips, watching some streamer yell about lag. "Mom," I said slowly, "I was never pregnant." There was silence. Just a soft, broken little, "oh" on the other end, the kind that hits harder than yelling ever could. She said, he told us you were about 4 months along. That you'd had complications. We sent more money to help with the bills." I cut her off because my blood was boiling. "Wait, you sent more money?" "Just another 5,000. He said the hospital wasn't covered by insurance." I think my jaw actually locked. When I hung up, I turned to him and said, calm but shaking, "Did you tell your parents I had a miscarriage?" He looked up from his controller and said, "Well, yeah." I didn't want them asking questions about where the baby stuff was. "It's called problem solving, babe." Problem solving. He said it like it was logical. Like it was normal to fake your wife's pregnancy, steal your parents' savings, and then invent a fake tragedy to cover it up. That's when something in me snapped. I started yelling, really yelling, and I didn't even care who heard. He tried to talk over me, saying I was making a scene, that I always overreact. Then he had the nerve to say, "You're lucky I didn't tell them you cheated or something." That was it. I told him to pack his stuff and leave. But he didn't. He laughed. Where would I even go? "You're not kicking me out over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. I went into our bedroom, grabbed his gaming headset, and hurled it into the wall so hard it cracked. That's when he finally realized I wasn't bluffing. It was barely 24 hours after that screaming match when I heard the knock. You know that kind of knock that feels heavy before you even open the door? That one. I opened it and there stood his parents. Faces pale, eyes red, looking 10 years older than they had last Thanksgiving. I didn't even have to ask why they were there. His mom held an envelope, his dad wouldn't meet my eyes. "Can we talk to Ryan?" she said quietly. I stepped aside because, honestly, this wasn't my fight anymore. I just crossed my arms and watched as Ryan shuffled into the hallway in his pajama pants, acting like he'd been interrupted mid-nap. "Hey, Mom." "Dad." "Wow, didn't expect you guys today." Like this was a casual visit. His dad cut him off before he could keep pretending. "Enough. We know." I'd never seen Ryan go pale so fast. His mom's voice cracked when she said, "You told us she was pregnant. You told us she lost the baby. How could you?" And Ryan, my grown husband, had the audacity to shrug. "I was just trying to get ahead, okay? I didn't mean for it to go this far." Then he looked at me like I was supposed to jump in and defend him. I didn't move. I just stared. His dad's voice was shaking with anger. "That money was from our savings. We trusted you." Ryan started his usual deflecting routine. You don't understand how hard it is right now. I was gonna pay you back. I was gonna start something." His dad cut him off again, louder this time. "Start something? You started a lie." That was the moment his mom started crying again, quiet, helpless sobs that filled the whole house. He tried to hug her, and she pulled away. That hurt more than any shouting. She turned to me and whispered, "I'm so sorry you had to go through this, dear." And God, that's what finally broke me. Because I didn't just feel angry anymore. I felt embarrassed. Ashamed. Like I'd been a prop in his long-term performance. They left with nothing but silence. Ryan slammed the door, threw his hands up, and said, "Well, that went great. You happy now?" I just stared at him and said, "You need to leave." He laughed again, but this time it was nervous. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Maybe the same place your conscience went," I said, and locked myself in the bedroom. For the first time since I'd known him, he didn't follow. The next morning, the house was quiet, too quiet. No clinking mugs, no half-eaten cereal bowl, no sound of him whining at his computer. For a brief, blissful second, I thought maybe he'd gone to apologize to his parents. Maybe he'd finally done one responsible thing in his life. Then I noticed the closet. Half his stuff gone. His gaming console? Gone. His laptop, the one he needed for business? Gone. And when I checked our joint account, my heart sank. The $10,000 that had still been sitting there the night before? Also gone. No note. No message. Just an empty closet and a drained account. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Texted, nothing. Around noon, I got a message from his best friend, Jake. You know, the one who's always just helping Ryan brainstorm ideas. Jake said, "Hey, I heard you and we are taking a break?" He said he's heading out of town with someone for a bit. "Hope you're okay."
Someone.
I called him immediately. "Jake," I said, voice shaking. "What do you mean someone?"
Who's he with?
And Jake, poor, clueless Jake, goes, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe that girl from the bar? The one he was seeing a while ago?" He said she understands him better. My vision actually blurred. That girl. The one I caught him texting months ago and he swore up and down was just a friend helping with marketing ideas. So, to recap, my husband lied about me being pregnant, scammed his parents out of $30,000, and then ran off with the woman he'd been collaborating with. I called his mom, voice trembling, and told her what I'd found. There was this long pause. Then she said, so softly, "We'll handle it from here, honey. You just take care of yourself." Later that evening, I got another message, this time from an unknown number. It was Ryan. "Hey babe,
Don't freak out.
I just need some time to clear my head. I'll be back once things calm down." Freak out? I wanted to drive to wherever he was hiding and unpack his head myself. I didn't reply. I just sat there on the couch, shaking, realizing I'd been living with a man who was basically a walking con artist in sweatpants. And I don't know what hurt more, the betrayal or how easily he did it. 2 days later, I was still in that half-numb state where you alternate between crying and staring at a wall. Every sound made me jump. Every vibration from my phone made my stomach twist. Then, out of nowhere, I got a DM on Instagram. It was from a woman I didn't recognize. Her profile picture was of a beach sunset, and her name was Kara, with AK. Her message just said, "Hey, I'm sorry to reach out like this, but are you Ryan's wife?" I just stared at it. You ever get that instant gut feeling that the next few minutes are going to ruin your whole day?
Yeah, that.
I typed back. I was. Why? She replied almost immediately. "I didn't know. He said you two were separated. I only found out yesterday that you weren't. I thought you should know where he is." She sent me a photo. And there he was, Ryan, standing on a pier somewhere, holding her hand, wearing my hoodie, smiling like a man who hadn't just detonated his entire life. Behind them was a sign that said, "Welcome to Clearwater Beach," which, by the way, is about 6 hours away from her home. So while his parents were crying and I was picking up the pieces of our financial disaster, he was out at the beach with her, drinking cocktails with my hoodie and his parents' stolen money. I asked Kara if she knew anything about the money. She said, "You mean the investment?" He told me his parents helped him start a company. He said he's using it to buy inventory for a new business, baby products, I think. I had to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. He was still using the same lie. And Kara wasn't just some random girl. She was the marketing consultant he'd mentioned months ago. The one he swore was just helping him brainstorm ideas. I sent her a voice note explaining everything. The fake pregnancy, the $30,000, the whole circus. I told her she should probably check her wallet before he found a way to invest her money too. She was quiet for a while. Then she replied, "I had no idea.
I'm so sorry.
I'm leaving him right now." For a second, I didn't believe her. But a few hours later, she sent me a photo of her suitcase and a bus ticket home. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Because at the end of the day, she believed his lies too. Just like I had. It was exactly 9 days after the whole Clearwater Beach revelation when I heard another knock at my door. I swear, my blood ran cold. There's this specific type of silence your house has when you know something bad is on the other side of the door. I peeked through the peephole, and there he was. Ryan. Sunburned, disheveled, wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize, holding one sad duffel bag, like some kind of traveling salesman of bad decisions. I opened the door just enough to say, "What do you want?" He had the nerve to smile, that fake "hey babe" grin that used to melt me back when I didn't know better.
"Can I come in?" he said.
"We need to talk." I didn't move. About what? The fake baby? The 30 grand you stole? The vacation with your side chick? He rolled his eyes, like I was the one overreacting. God, you make it sound so dramatic. It wasn't a vacation. It was just I needed space, okay? Everything got so stressful. Stressful? You made up a pregnancy. Yeah, well, I panicked. You don't know what it's like to disappoint people all the time. I blinked at him. Ryan, you disappointed people by choice. He tried a step closer, and I could smell cheap alcohol and sunscreen. Listen, babe, I can fix this. We just need to get on the same page. I already talked to Kara. I cut him off. Oh, Kara? The same Kara who messaged me because she found out you were married? The one who left you at the bus stop. That made him pause. His face fell just a little. She told you. Everything. He sighed and dropped his bag. Look, I messed up, okay? But it's not like I hurt anyone. And that's when I laughed, this loud, ugly, borderline hysterical laugh. Not like you hurt anyone? You conned your parents, lied to your wife, and broke 2 hearts in the same month. He actually pouted. Pouted. Why do you always make me out to be the bad guy? Because you are the bad guy, Ryan. There was a long pause. Then, like the world's worst twist, he said, I was hoping I could stay here a few days. Just until I figure things out. I looked at him, the same man who'd lied, cheated, and stolen, and I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just emptiness. Ryan, I said slowly, you've been figuring things out for years. And every time you do, someone else pays the price. He started to argue again, but I was already closing the door. Good luck with your next idea, I said. I'm done being part of it. The door clicked shut, and for the first time in a long, long time, the silence felt like peace. For the next week after I kicked him out, I didn't hear a thing. No texts, no calls, not even a pity you'll regret this message. It was blissful, quiet, calm, like my brain was finally unclenching after months of chaos. Then, on a random Tuesday morning, my phone started buzzing nonstop. 3 missed calls from his mom, 1 from an unknown number, and a voicemail from a number labeled Clearwater PD.
Yeah.
The police. When I finally called back, an officer explained that they'd taken a report from Ryan's parents about potential financial deception. Apparently, when Ryan vanished, his dad decided to dig through the accounts and found proof that every cent of that $30,000 transfer had gone to him, not for any baby business, but in chunks to travel agencies, bars, and some girl's Venmo account. Guess whose name was on that Venmo account? Hers. The officer said they weren't pressing charges yet, but Ryan's parents wanted to open an investigation. I could hear how embarrassed they were even through the police statement. A few hours later, his mom called me directly. I almost didn't pick up, but she sounded desperate. Honey, I just wanted to say we didn't know. We thought he'd changed. He told us he was getting better, getting back on track. I told her gently that none of this was her fault. She and her husband had been lied to as much as I had. Maybe more. Then she whispered something that broke my heart. We can't even look at him right now. He's been staying at some cheap motel near the highway, asking for more money. We told him no. And for the first time, I think I actually felt pity. Not because he deserved it, God, he didn't, but because I finally realized Ryan wasn't some evil mastermind. He was just broken. A pathetic, lazy man who kept building castles of lies and getting angry when they fell down. That evening, I got one final text from him. You told them, didn't you? You ruined my life. I stared at it for a while, then typed back. No, Ryan. You did that all by yourself. I hit send, blocked his number, and exhaled so deeply it felt like I was letting go of a decade of stress. The next morning felt different. Lighter. Like I'd finally stepped out of a fog I didn't even know I was living in. For months, maybe years, I'd been doing damage control for Ryan. Covering his tracks, making excuses, pretending he was just going through a rough patch. It hit me how often I'd said that exact phrase to friends, family, even coworkers. He's just having a hard time right now. But it wasn't a rough patch. It was who he was. I started cleaning out the house, and every single drawer I opened felt like a small act of reclaiming my life. Receipts, random business plans scrawled on napkins, screenshots of messages he'd printed out to prove people wrong, trash. While I was sorting through the mess, I found a folder labeled Future Plans. Inside were notes and doodles for his so-called baby business. One page actually said, "Convince mom and dad this is for family. They'll feel guilty saying no." My hands shook. He'd planned the manipulation. It wasn't some impulse or panic move. He had mapped out every step. Something in me switched off right then. Whatever tiny part of me that still felt sorry for him just evaporated. That night, I did something I should have done ages ago. I emailed a lawyer. Not for a dramatic divorce showdown, just to start the paperwork quietly, properly. I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. When my lawyer called the next day, she said, "You'd be surprised how many cases like this I see." I laughed. Really? Husbands faking pregnancies to scam their parents. She said, "No. People waking up one day and realizing they've been parenting a grown adult instead of partnering with one." And God, if that didn't hit hard. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. A week later, I was sitting in the lawyer's office signing the first round of divorce documents when my phone buzzed again. It was his mom. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something told me to answer. Her voice was shaky, tired, the kind of voice that's aged 10 years in a week. "Sweetheart," she said quietly, we've decided to press charges." I sat there in silence. It was one of those moments where time feels like it stretches. She went on to explain that Ryan had tried calling them again, begging for more money, saying he'd make it all right. But this time, his dad recorded the call. They had proof he was still trying to manipulate them. Proof of the transfers. Proof of the lies. "I can't believe we raised someone who could do this," she whispered. I told her gently that it wasn't her fault, that she didn't make him this way. She cried anyway. And honestly, I cried too. That night, I got another text from a random number I didn't recognize. It was Ryan. "You can tell your lawyer to stop. I'm leaving town. You won." I didn't reply. I didn't even feel triumph. Just exhaustion. The next few days went by in a blur of emails, paperwork, and quiet. Beautiful, peaceful quiet. No shouting. No lies. No pretending. When the divorce papers were finalized, my lawyer slid the last document across her desk with a small smile. "You're free," she said. And I swear, it hit me harder than I expected. I walked out of that office, got into my car, and just breathed. Later that week, his mom sent me a message again. "We're cutting all contact. He needs to face this on his own. Thank you for telling us the truth." I thanked her back, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace mixed with pity. Not for what I lost, but for what he would never have. Honesty, love, and a real life not built on lies. It's strange how quiet feels different when you've lived in chaos for so long. The first week after everything ended, I kept expecting something to explode. A text, a knock at the door, a new lie to unravel. But nothing came. Just silence. And for the first time in years, that silence didn't feel empty. It felt safe. I started sleeping again. Real sleep. Not that half-awake, heart-racing kind where you're waiting for the next argument. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I stopped replaying every conversation in my head, trying to decode what he really meant. It's funny how much mental space you get back when you're not constantly trying to manage someone else's mess. I began noticing little things I hadn't in so long, like how bright the mornings were, or how peaceful my coffee tasted when it wasn't shared with someone scrolling through excuses. I even started writing again, something I'd given up because he once told me it was a waste of time unless it made money. I found pieces of myself in every quiet moment. And then, about a month later, I saw him one last time, completely by accident. I was at the grocery store, of all places, picking out avocados, when I looked up and saw him across the aisle. He looked wrecked. Unshaven, thinner, clothes wrinkled, that fake confidence gone. He froze when he saw me. I didn't. I just nodded, turned around, and walked away. He didn't follow. Didn't say a word. And that silence, his silence, felt like closure. On the drive home, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. I was just free. If you've ever been in love with someone who lies, not just once, not just about something small, but habitually, pathologically, you'll understand this. At first, you don't even notice it's happening. They're charming, funny, maybe even a little ridiculous. They spin stories that sound almost true, and you want to believe them. Because believing them feels easier than facing the fact that the person you love is broken in ways you can't fix. That was me with Ryan. Every time he lied, I filled in the blanks with reasons. Oh, he's just stressed. Oh, he's scared. Oh, he didn't mean to. But here's what I learned, and I mean really learned, the hard way. Love doesn't mean protecting someone from consequences. It doesn't mean swallowing your instincts to keep the peace. And it definitely doesn't mean sacrificing your sanity for someone who treats honesty like an optional hobby. If you ever catch yourself saying, "It's not that bad," while staring at red flags the size of billboards, trust me, it's that bad. Ryan didn't suddenly become a liar the day he stole that money. He had been lying in smaller ways for years. I just didn't want to admit it. And when you ignore the little lies, they grow into big ones. They always do. Now, when I look back, I don't feel stupid for believing him. I feel proud that I finally stopped. So, if you're reading this and you're with someone who constantly doesn't know how it happened or didn't mean it, listen to that voice in your head that whispers, "This isn't right." That's not paranoia. That's clarity trying to break through the fog. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not even someone you used to love. It's been almost 6 months since everything fell apart. Or maybe I should say, since everything finally stopped pretending to hold together. And, honestly, my life feels like mine again. The first few weeks after the divorce were strange. I kept catching myself setting out 2 coffee mugs in the morning or checking my phone before leaving the house, like I needed to report in. I didn't realize how much of my day had revolved around managing Ryan's moods. Now, I wake up when I want. I eat what I want. I don't walk on eggshells waiting for someone to get annoyed because I breathed too loud. I even started therapy, something I'd always wanted to do but couldn't because Ryan said therapy is just for people who can't handle life. Turns out therapy's for people who want to handle life and handle it well. My therapist asked me, "What does peace look like to you?" And for a second, I didn't know how to answer. But slowly, I figured it out. Peace looks like not checking his location. Peace looks like paying bills without discovering a mystery transaction. Peace looks like coming home to silence, and knowing that silence means safety, not secrets. A few weeks ago, I took a solo trip, something I'd never done before. I drove to a quiet coastal town, walked along the beach, and didn't think about him once. Not once. I used to think freedom meant being wild, dramatic, full of change. But it's not. Freedom is calm. Freedom is waking up and realizing you don't owe anyone a performance. And for the first time in years, I'm not someone's wife, someone's problem, or someone's second chance. I'm just me. It happened on an ordinary Thursday. I was cleaning out old files on my phone, photos, receipts, random screenshots, when I noticed an unread message request on social media. It was from him, Ryan. The profile picture was new, just a blurry photo of a car dashboard, nothing else. The message itself was short, but every word dripped with the same lazy charm that used to melt my anger.
Hey.
I know you probably hate me, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. I messed up, yeah, but I still miss you. I think about us. Hope you're okay. I stared at it for a long time. A few months ago, I probably would have cried, or typed a long message explaining exactly how much he'd hurt me.
But now?
I just felt nothing. No fury. No heartbreak. Just a deep, settled calm. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I think he was expecting the old me, the one who always tried to fix, to reason, to forgive. But that version of me doesn't exist anymore. I blocked him, without a word. And then, I did something I never thought I'd do. I smiled. Not out of revenge, not because I won, but because I realized that his opinion of me doesn't define my worth anymore. His chaos isn't mine to carry. That night, I took a long walk. The air was cold, crisp, and full of that electric kind of peace that only comes after you've truly let go. I thought about how far I'd come, from the woman crying over a fake pregnancy and stolen money, to someone who could finally breathe without guilt. So, if anyone reading this is stuck in a relationship built on lies and confusion, I promise, there's life after betrayal. There's laughter again. There's trust again. And there's a version of you waiting on the other side, stronger, quieter, and finally free. Because sometimes, losing them is exactly how you find yourself.